Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good evening and welcome to the February 24th Municipal Council meeting, which I will now call to order. Madam Clerk, for the record of this meeting, please note that Mayor Haxon and Councillor Leahy are absent with notice, and so I will be chairing this meeting. Council has a very full agenda this evening, including deputations and 2 public statutory meetings. For efficiency, I will remind those speaking to do so within the allotted 5 minutes and ensure that questions go through the chair. So next item on our agenda is a declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members of council? Councillor Johns, go ahead, please. Yeah,
thanks, Madam Chair. I'm declaring pecuniary interest on item F1 number 102625 report, and in turn also D2 of the deputations due to the topic of that deputation. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johns. Madam Clerk, you've noted those declarations. Thank you. We're on item C of our agenda, which is the land acknowledgement. For those of you who are standing in the back, there are some seats available still in the room. And I will note that if there are no seats available, we have arranged for an overflow room if somebody is interested in doing that. But there are seats available at this time. Thank you. So the land acknowledgement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the First Peoples of the Williams Treaties First Nations and other Indigenous peoples. And on behalf of Council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as EG's closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. So we have deputations as next on our list. Before we begin hearing from deputants, I want to outline the expectations for conduct at this meeting. All participants are expected to conduct themselves respectfully and in accordance with the town's procedural bylaw. This includes refraining from interruptions, outbursts, or any behavior that disrupts the meeting. Each deputant will be provided up to 5 minutes to present their remarks unless council or committee approves a different time, and the meeting will continue in an orderly and respectful manner. The town will not tolerate abusive, threatening, or profane language, or any negative or inappropriate comments directed at members of council, staff, or members of the public. Deputants must limit their remarks to the subject for which they have been granted approval. I would also like to remind everyone of the following rules from the procedural bylaw. No deputant shall speak disrespectfully of any person, use offensive language or unparliamentary language or words, speak on any subject other than the subject for which he or she has received approval to address council or committee, or disobey the rules of procedure or a decision of the chair or council. If there is disorder or breach of these rules or behavior that compromises the safety, fairness, or integrity of the meeting, I may curtail a deputation or rule it concluded. Individuals causing a disturbance may be asked to leave. If necessary, the staff will seek assistance from security or police officers. I don't expect that'll happen tonight, but let's keep our fingers crossed. These expectations help ensure that all participants, whether speaking or observing, can take part in a respectful, safe, and well-managed meeting. So we will now proceed. Item D1 on our agenda, under our procedural bylaw, section 13.2, council must consent to receive a deputation. So may I have a motion to receive a deputation from, I think this is A. Lenkov. Moved by Councillor Johns. May I have a seconder? May I have a seconder? Seeing no seconder, then I have to rule that we do not have the authority or consent to proceed with that deputation. Item D2 on our agenda, may I have under section 13.2, under our procedural bylaw, council must consent to receive a deputation. May I have a motion to receive the deputation on item D2?
Just as a reminder, Madam Chair, that I have declared a conflict of interest on this one. So
thank you for that reminder, Mr. Councillor Johns. So I've got a motion from Councillor Foster to receive the deputation. May I have a seconder? seconded by Councillor Carruthers. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much. Mr. Brown, are you here this evening? Please come forward. Mr. Brown, I'm just going to remind you, given the content of your proposed deputation, I'm going to remind you that the investigation, so your thing was about the Integrity Commissioner's report. I want to remind you that the investigation has been completed, and we're not here to discuss the application for 31 Sand. That is before a legal tribunal, and it has legal ramifications for the municipality. So I would like to ask you to limit your discussion or your presentation to process, the report, and its findings. No new information can be presented today. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Acting Mayor, Council, and members of the public. You are right, in fact, in your words, and I will not be proceeding with my deputation this evening, as I had planned, due to the change in the Acting Mayor's chair for this council meeting. Based on the precedent set at previous council meetings, and in my opinion, I may not be provided, if I did that, a fair opportunity to complete my deputation or respond to comments made by members of council. So I'd like to leave it to the public to determine whether or not this council has demonstrated, through its own words and conduct, the honesty and restraint required by the council committee code of conduct, which states, members shall seek to advance the public interest with honesty and refrain from making statements known to be false or with the intent to mislead council staff or the public. Section 2B of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms protects the right to express opinions and ideas and criticism, especially about government. As council considers imposing punishment on a fellow councillor based on the Integrity Commissioner's recommendations, the public may also decide whether members of themselves have fully adhered to the council committee code of conduct. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. May I have a motion to receive the deputation? Moved by Councillor Carruthers, seconded by Councillor Crone. All those in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. We're next on to item E, which is presentations, and there are none at this time. That has not changed, Madam Clerk? No? Okay. Item F is the report of the Integrity Commissioner. I note that Councillor Johns has declared an interest in this matter and will not be participating in the vote on the matter. I'd like to turn this over to Ms. Suzanne Craig, who is our Integrity Commissioner. I believe she's joining us virtually. Ms. Craig, are you on the line?
Sorry, Madam Chair, just before you proceed, it's my understanding that I have the opportunity to make a statement in advance of moving forward to F1.
My understanding was that we would have the Integrity Commissioner provide an overview of the report to Council, and that then the respondent would have an opportunity to address the report.
I am
Madam
not looking
Clerk, was
to
that
participate or respond to the report. I'm looking to make a statement and then remove myself from the discussion regarding the report because of the pecuniary interest that is tied to that.
Ms. Craig, or we do have Mr. Rayner here. I'm just seeking some advice. I was, as folks in the room may realize, I was kind of thrown into this spot at the last minute. My understanding was that Ms. Craig would be presenting her report and that the respondent would then be providing a statement. Is that appropriate, or is it also appropriate for us to hear from the respondent first and then hear from Ms. Craig and her report?
Through you, Acting Mayor, it's entirely up to the council what format they want to take, and so you may choose to hear Mr. Johns first if that's
Okay.
the will of council.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm quite happy to move that we allow Councillor Johns to speak
Absolutely.
first.
Absolutely. Councillor Johns, I apologize if I was briefed in a different fashion, and I would absolutely like to hear your statement. If you'd like to provide it first before the Integrity Commissioner presents her report, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everything I do is guided by a clear commitment to serve residents and remain accountable to the people of East Gwillimbury. when concerns arose regarding 31 Sand Road, I believe I acted in good faith to advocate for residents and to address an issue that many in the community care deeply about. I acknowledge the findings of the report, and I offer my sincere apology. I have great respect for municipal staff and the work that they do. My consistent approach was to provide clarity regarding the listing of the property on the Municipal Heritage Registry versus that of designation, and further ensuring Council's unanimous direction was understood and implemented. Last week, as a gesture of goodwill, I donated $1,500, the equivalent to 2 weeks of councillor salary, to the Sharon Museum and Gardens to support the preservation of East Gwillimbury's cultural heritage. Moving forward, I will always continue to put residents first and to advocate for the community. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Johns. Ms. Craig, would you like to present your report to Council, please, and thank you.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor and members of Council, staff, and members of the public in Council chambers and online. The report before Council sets out my findings as Integrity Commissioner with respect to 2 formal complaints that I received with respect to the respondent, Councillor Brian Johns. I found in the report that the respondent's conduct breached several provisions of the Council and Committee Code of Conduct. In particular, the investigation report concludes that the respondent's public statements falsely injured the professional reputation of staff, failed to accurately convey Council's decisions and the town's authority at the relevant time, and constituted an improper attempt to pressure staff. I also addressed in the findings allegations concerning the use of municipal resources that were raised in the complaint and confidentiality. The respondent published correspondence on official town letterhead, and I intended the letter to be used as part of his official duties, not in his personal capacity. However, I concluded that his actions did not violate Section 5.2 of the Code, use of town property. I further concluded that he did not breach the confidentiality provisions in Section 7 of the Code. With respect to the process I followed as set out in the report after receiving the written complaints, the respondent's response and the reply materials, the respondent's error and omissions comments and further comments, and considering that the alleged misconduct was contained in written communication, I determined that it was not necessary to interview the respondent. I provided the draft report to the respondent on December 29th, 2025. After granting requested extensions, I received a 16-page letter from the respondent's lawyer on January 30th, 2026 on errors and omissions of fact. I reviewed each of the submissions carefully and addressed them where necessary in the final report. Typically, I would not seek further comments from a respondent, and I'm not required to do so under the code complaint procedure. However, the respondent submitted in the errors and omissions comments that the recommended sanction should consider 2 factors that were disputed by evidence received in the investigation. As a result, and in the interests of procedural fairness, I provided the respondent a further opportunity to respond on that limited issue. The report finds 4 issues, and I go through them very briefly at this time. Respect for staff. The evidence I received during the course of the investigation supported that the respondent's public letter disparaged staff unfairly. The provisions of the code exist to preserve a professional working relationship between council members and the public service, to protect staff from unwarranted public attack by those in positions of authority. The respondent's Facebook post, presented as an open letter on town letterhead, named individual staff members, including the acting CAO, the town solicitor, and the interim planning GM. The letter suggested those staff members had failed to carry out council's direction regarding a particular property. By stating that in his letter, that it had been 1 week since council gave direction and implying that nothing had happened in that time, the respondent led a reasonable reader to conclude that the town staff had sat idle and failed to act. As set out in the findings report, that was a false impression. A key contextual fact is that Because of an earlier issued demolition permit, the town had no legal authority to stop the demolition and instead required a voluntary agreement from the owner not to demolish the buildings. By publicly alleging inaction and suggesting that the town could have taken steps to stop the demolition, the respondent conveyed that staff had failed to act. I did not accept the respondent's characterization that the letter was simply an update intended to ensure the public understood the status of the matter. Rather, I found that it was an inaccurate message that stoked public concern that staff were inactive on an issue of vital importance to your community. By the time of the posting, the respondent knew that staff were working with the owner, providing regular updates to council and awaiting an external legal opinion regarding the town's authority. The respondent may have been dissatisfied with the pace of the direction or the process and may have wanted to acknowledge the deep public concern. However, FAQs were provided by staff to assist members in answering questions from the public. The respondent wanted an outcome to proceed faster than was realistically possible, as being stated by staff regularly in updates. The respondent's remarks that his, quote, worst fears have now come to fruition, end quote, read in context, strongly insinuated that staff's failure to act caused the very outcome he feared, namely removal of the heritage-related structures. The inference left to the reasonable reader was that if staff had heeded council direction or the respondent's warnings, the demolition might have been averted. This cast staff as either inept or willfully non-compliant or idle, and it presented misinformation that was damaging to the credibility of staff members named. Members, of course, may offer criticism of staff through appropriate channels, including discussions with the CAO or through other internal processes. In this case, however, I found that the respondent's critical assertions were not supported by the facts. He knew, for example, that the structure with potential heritage classification was being protected pending further study and that a public meeting was scheduled for October the 21st. Yet his letter failed to mention these facts and instead advanced a narrative of inaction. His letter had the effect of naming and shaming staff on social media. While it did not contain insults, it was scathing in its implication on a plain reading that staff had failed in their duties. The respondent first sent the letter to staff and council, and then, without allowing time for a response, chose a very public medium, Facebook, to broadcast these criticisms. In short, I find the respondent breached Rule 3.2 of the code by falsely injuring staff. The second issue, interference with staff independence, improper influence or direction. The report sets out that I look at whether or not the respondent's letter amounted to an improper attempt to influence staff. I won't go through all of the rules, but 3.1 reflects that the town is governed by council as a whole. Individual councillors, including the mayor or an acting mayor, do not have authority to direct staff. The respondent's actions blurred the council staff boundary. Although the letter did not refer to his acting mayor status, that does not change how the communication would reasonably be received. The letter can be interpreted as criticizing staff. The public forum matters. If the respondent's goal was to obtain information or prompt action, the appropriate route would have been to seek clarification from the CAO or to raise the issue during a council meeting. By instead publishing a follow-up on Facebook, the respondent circumvented established processes. This can be seen as an attempt to leverage public opinion to corner staff into acting differently. From the perspective of staff who were named and who received the communication, the conduct could reasonably be expected and experienced as threatening or intimidating, even without an explicit threat. Naming staff publicly alongside assertions of their failure can undermine their professional reputation and can reasonably be perceived as a form of public shaming designed to force a change in approach. Whether or not intimidation was subjectively intended, the effect was that staff felt improperly pressured and undermined in the performance of their duties. In summary, I found that the respondent's actions interfered with the proper separation between political oversight and administrative execution and breached the rules set out in the report. The third issue was the use of municipal resources and communication protocols. The respondent submitted that he believed he had authority to send the letter to staff and to post it publicly in his role as acting mayor. There's no evidence that council or the mayor's office sanctioned the letter as an official town statement. The letter also contained errors that contributed to public confusion and created additional difficulties for staff who were managing this very complex and important issue. However, I accepted that the respondent used town resources for what he believed to be the purpose of communicating within his role as a municipal councillor. On that basis, I concluded that Section 5.2 was not breached. I accepted that the respondent did not identify himself as acting mayor and in his public letter, and my findings are grounded in the fact that the member of council believed to be acting in his role as a councillor and not in his private capacity. And finally, issue number 4, confidential information and waiver of privilege. I found that there was nothing confidential in the communication, and the fact that the town solicitor was named in the letter does not mean that there was a waiver of solicitor-client privilege, and therefore Section 7 of the code was not breached. With respect to the recommendation on sanction, in response to the draft report that I sent to the respondent and the submissions made on errors or omissions, he stated that he has no prior record of noncompliance, that he sought proactive advice from my office in the past, that he did not intend to disparage staff or spread misinformation, that he removed the post within 24 hours when he was asked, and he took steps to address the matter publicly, that he apologized to the acting CAO during a call, and that he is prepared to offer a further apology to staff. I considered all of these submissions in drafting the final report before you. There's also a factual dispute about whether the respondent apologized to the acting CAO during a call. I did not attempt to resolve that dispute because even if an apology did occur, subsequent communication significantly reduced any mitigating value that might otherwise attach to it. An apology has many components, including recognizing one's conduct caused harm, not simply stating that one regrets that the recipient felt disrespected. After receipt of the respondent's letter to councillors that was sent to all councillors and certain staff, another member of council wrote to the respondent and to the same staff recipients, stating that in their view, the respondent had impugned staff's reputation and should apologize. The respondent's response copied to the same distribution list said, and I quote, it included, and I quote, "In no way did I disrespect staff and question the activity of staff to date." That subsequent position is inconsistent with a recognition of harm and limits mitigation based on an apology. I also considered aggravating factors, including the fact that the communication was publicly and widely disseminated and that it named senior staff, and it had inaccuracies about the Heritage Act and town's legal authority. After balancing all of the considerations, the respondent's reply, the comments from the complainants, my interviews with subject matter experts, the respondent's lawyer's letter of errors and omissions, the further additional comments, I concluded that the objectives of accountability, deterrence, restoration of public confidence were appropriately addressed through a formal reprimand and remedial measures and a suspension of remuneration. And therefore, at the bottom of the report before you, I respectfully recommend that council issue a formal reprimand, suspend the remuneration for a period of 15 days, require the councillor to post a public apology to the affected staff on the same social media account used to distribute the original letter, and that remained for 30 days visible, and that the respondent complete an education or training respecting the respectful council staff relations policy and appropriate public communications. I end by stating that the role of council when receiving an Integrity Commissioner Code of Conduct report is to accept the recommended sanctions, vary the recommended sanctions, or reject the recommended sanctions in their entirety. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Craig. At this point, I need to call for a mover and seconder so that we can, if we wish to accept, vary, or deny the report's recommendation. So I need a mover to receive. So we need to get this on the floor. Councillor Carruthers?
And I would like to, so the recommendation in our agenda is that it be received the report be received and that the recommendations be received. And I'd like to add that the recommendations in the report be adopted.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Foster. Okay, so we now have this on the floor for discussion. Does anyone want to speak to the item?
I'll go.
Councillor Crone, please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think any of us take any pleasure being up here admonishing a colleague, spending time on this that's taking time away from improving the quality of life of our residents. Being said, there's an old saying in public life that some of the deepest wounds we experience are the ones we inflict upon ourselves, and I think this is one of those moments. I've known Councillor Johns for many years, and I truly believe he cares about this community. And I also want to acknowledge that he has accepted the findings of the Integrity Commissioner and has issued an apology. Accountability matters. And I've read the Integrity Commissioner's report regarding the conduct of Councillor Johns, and while we all share a passion for protecting our town's heritage, there is a right way and a wrong way to lead. The Commissioner's findings are clear. Councillor Johns used his position to spread inaccurate information and to publicly attack the professional reputations of our town staff. These are the very people that we rely on to protect this community. It is important to note that if any one of us had done misconduct like this in the private sector, we'd probably be looking for new work. In my own experience in business, I learned a very simple principle. You praise in public when you're managing people, and you correct in private. It's not just good leadership, it's a sign of respect. And leadership is more than about social media posts and assigning blame. It's about integrity and respect for the rules that govern us. And I'm very concerned about the chilling effect that this will have on staff relations. If staff begin to hesitate in offering council their frank advice out of fear of public retaliation, governance suffers. It suffers greatly. And ultimately, residents suffer. Now, let me be clear. None of us are perfect. Every one of us will make mistakes and have made mistakes. Public service is carried out by imperfect human beings trying to do their best. But accountability is not about perfection. It's about responsibility. So I want to thank the Integrity Commissioner for her thorough work. I want to thank the complainants who came forward, because speaking up is not always easy. And most importantly, I want to thank our staff, and I want them to know that their work is valued. They serve this town with dedication and professionalism every single day, and they deserve respect. And I want to remind all of us that this moment should not divide us. It should remind us. It should remind us of the standards we are called to uphold and the trust that is placed in us, and the example that we set, not just for each other, but for the community we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crone. Councillor Foster, please go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. Councillor Johns has accepted this report and its recommendations, so that says a lot. The Integrity Commissioner has investigated and made the recommendations that she is expected to do and paid to do. The report, I believe, balances accountability and protecting the reputation of our employees and maintains a respectful workplace. To put it simply, some bad judgment along with some misleading information that was disseminated through the letter and its contents. I'll leave it at that, but I support the recommendations put forth by the report.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you. I want to start by being clear that this is not about advocating for residents. Anyone who's trying to frame it that way is ignoring the actual findings in the report. Advocating for residents and communicating with residents is our job. And if that was the issue, we would have seen complaints long before today. The issue, as clearly outlined in the investigative report, is how we advocate and communicate. As elected officials, it is incumbent upon us to communicate fairly and accurately to the best of our knowledge and with the utmost integrity. Councillor Johns is accused of willful misrepresentation and a reckless disregard for the truth. A third-party investigation found that he misstated the Ontario Heritage Act in a manner that was wrong and misleading to the public. That's on page 15 of the report. On page 18, the Integrity Commissioner concludes that Councillor Johns made misleading statements that failed to respect staff and in doing so falsely injured their reputations. Having gone through the 28-page report multiple times, I've come to accept the seriousness of the findings, and I've heard that Councillor Johns also accepts the report, so it would seem that we are not in disagreement on the findings. What concerns me is that we have seen this pattern of behavior before. The report references on page 5 and page 10 a previous incident that also resulted in an apology and a promise to do better from Councillor Johns. That history makes it more difficult for me to take his apology at face value. I am also troubled that I learned of his apology through the media and a Facebook post. Such action appears more focused on managing consequences than on taking accountability. I do not see a real understanding of the reputational harm that has been caused to the organization and the erosion of public confidence in our governance that he has caused, but according to the report, by choosing to distribute misleading statements to the public. It is my hope that Councillor Johns is able to learn from this mistake. I want us to spend our time in this chamber moving forward the people's business and not discussing the behavior of councillors. This is where these actions have brought us today and where we will be again if there's not true learning about appropriate public communications. So I have to conclude that the recommended consequences in the Integrity Commissioner's reports are appropriate. If prior apologies have not resulted in a lasting change, then stronger measures are necessary to truly change behavior. And I hope very much that it will. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carruthers. I will try to keep my comments brief. The Integrity Commissioner is a neutral, independent, professional expert who undertakes this work across the province. This isn't just about the town of East Gwillimbury. This is not council attacking itself, but receiving a report from an independent third party following a thorough investigation. And I've said this before, and I think my colleagues have also expressed this. These reports are unfortunate, and I'm disappointed that this has happened. This isn't about whether a member of council has done their job, but how they're doing their job. And these sorts of reports reflect not just on the individual who is under investigation, but it reflects on the public trust that everyone places on us when they cast a ballot for us. And I have worked hard. This is my 4th term. I've worked here in this role for almost 16 years. And the hallmark of the work that I have tried to do at this table is to build a relationship based on trust and mutual respect for the professionals that serve this community. Our obligation to our staff is important. We have an obligation to respect them and to treat them as professionals, even when we disagree with them. And it is important in my mind that we support our staff, and in changing the recommendations of this report, then we would be sending the wrong message to our staff. Municipal politics is not an individual sport. It's a team sport with residents, council members, and staff all playing on the same team. We don't always agree, but the code of conduct exists for us to make sure that our public service is carried out in a respectful manner. And unfortunately, Councillor John's pattern of attention-seeking stunts and political self-promotion has come at the expense of the team he's supposed to be playing with and for, not against. So I have repeatedly, as his ward mate, expressed my opinions and tried to share some of my perspective with him, and I have not seen a change in that behavior. And unfortunately, it has been found that our code of conduct has been breached 7 times. And so I have come to the conclusion that I support the findings of the Integrity Commissioner's report, so that a small step can be made to restore public faith in our elected officials and hopefully deter this behavior from happening again. And I do hope, I truly hope in my heart of hearts, that this can restore some faith in the public in our governance as a whole. Thank you. So, that said, I have a motion from Councillor.
May I just ask a question?
Yes, actually, yeah, go ahead. You may ask a
Thank you.
question. We've all made statements, but I'm sure we also have questions.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My question through you to the Integrity Commissioner, Ms. Craig. One of your recommendations is about some training. How do we operationalize that? Is that done through your office? Is it handled through our people in belonging department here at the town? I quite honestly don't think it's fair to heave this responsibility for Councillor Johns to seek out a course and take it upon himself. So I'd look to you for guidance on how this should be accomplished and that can be looked after. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Craig?
Yes, through the acting mayor to Councillor Crone. Typically, when an integrity commissioner makes this type of recommendation, there is a department of the municipality that gives either a module or documents that the member can review. In this particular instance, and given that the subject of the complaints related to senior officials, I would highly recommend, if it is the will of council and through your CAO, that I be made the operator of this training to be able to ensure that not only the councillor staff relations policy is understood, but the grounding in the code of conduct. So it is entirely up to your municipality how you effect and implement this recommended remedial action should you choose to adopt it. But if you do, in the interest of preserving the distance between staff and the member in this particular instance, I think it would be appropriate to either have myself or another subject matter expert outside of your organization who specializes in council staff relations.
Thank you, Ms. Craig. Does that?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know how you want to handle this, if you want it as a friendly amendment or staff simply treat this as direction, but I think it's highly appropriate for Ms. Craig to oversee this.
Ms. Craig, can we take that as direction to staff? I want to try and keep this resolution as simple as possible.
Yeah, through you, Madam Acting Mayor, I think that as the recommendation stands, it will be training. How that is implemented, I can certainly work with your staff.
Thank you. Councillor Carruthers, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through you to Ms. Craig, will there be a report back to council that these conditions have been met? Because the training has a timeline on it, even the apology has a 30-day timeline on it. Who will let us know that the conditions were met?
Through you, Madam Acting Mayor, to Councillor Carruthers, I'm seized of the matter. I intentionally put time limits on this. Council may decide to adopt my recommendations on the remedial action that you're discussing at this point, and also the sanction, the two sanction of the reprimand and the suspension of remuneration. I put the timeline so I could remain seized of the matter. I communicate with your staff. Usually it is through your clerk. Has this been done, to determine if in fact it has? And part of your code also states that if council makes a decision on the recommended sanctions of the integrity commissioner and the member does not fulfill these remedial actions, that in and of itself is a breach of the code. So I would follow up with your staff to determine that it's happened. Certainly people have family matters. I know that March break is coming up, so 30 days can be suspended while a person, takes leave with their family or what have you.
Thank you, Ms. Craig.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that there will be a report back to council so that we can make sure that this has all been done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion moved by Councillor Carruthers, seconded by Councillor Foster, that the report of the Integrity Commissioner be received and that the recommendations contained within the Integrity Commissioner's report be received and adopted. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is committee recommendations, item G. The motion is to adopt the Committee of the Whole recommendations from the meeting held on February 10th. May I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Carruthers. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, I believe we have a recommendation from earlier today.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct. We're going to share that on the screen, and it will be highlighted in blue. It's in relation to the Regional Municipality of York tabling the region-wide development charge background study.
Okay, so we have it up on the screen here. Are there any questions? May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Crone, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any questions or comments on this? All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. I'm moving to adoption of minutes. And while I'm doing that, perhaps those of you who are standing at the back, there's some more seats up at the front as the room has started to empty out a little bit. So please feel free to take some seats that are available. Adoption of the minutes from the Committee of the Whole held on February 10th, and I'd like to actually put them together with the special meeting held on February 10th as well as the regular council meeting held on February 10th. So all three sets of minutes. May I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Carruthers, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you very much. We are at our statutory public meeting, and we only have two people standing now. It looks like it's by choice now. Okay, thank you. All right, statutory public meeting. I'm going to read some procedural comments. Members of the public, this portion of the council meeting is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. The purpose of this meeting is to inform and obtain public input on the planning application received by the town prior to a full technical analysis being conducted by staff. No decision to approve or refuse the application will be made here tonight. Following the applicant's presentation, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments respecting the proposals. Submission can also be made in writing to an email planning@eastgwillimbury.ca. If you plan to speak at this meeting or if you wish to be notified of any future council meetings concerning this application, please complete a form located at the desk at the back of the council chambers. We got lady in red waving her hand at the back there. Thank you. I will now ask the General Manager of Development Services to introduce the application. Please go ahead, Ms. Vumbakis.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor. This is an application for a rezoning application for the property known as 20337 Leslie Street, which is located on the east side of Leslie, south of the Queensville side road within the community of Queensville. The requested rezoning would rezone the lands from commercial corridor and residential private services to a site-specific commercial corridor and residential private services. The buildings are all existing. I just want everyone to understand that no new development is proposed on the lands. The applicant has submitted the application in order to bring the existing development into conformity with the zoning bylaw. In terms of what exists on the property right now, there is an automotive garage. It exists, and it's been expanded to include some commercial uses, and there is a residential unit on the second story, and another single-family dwelling exists on the northern portion of the site. So the rezoning is trying to rezone the property to recognize the existing built form on the site. No new construction, as I said, is proposed, and I believe the applicant has a presentation. They're online. Okay, the applicant is online, Madam Deputy Mayor, to make their presentation.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the applicant or the applicant's agent to please proceed with your presentation. And if you could, for the record, just introduce yourself as well, since we don't have you here in the building.
Through you, Madam Chair, we do have the applicant online. Deborah, can you
Oh.
hear me?
I can, yes. Are you able to hear me?
We
Yes,
can now.
My apologies. Okay, sorry.
I think you might
Good
need to
evening.
restart if you've already started.
I will.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Deborah Alexander. I'm with Alexander Planning. I represent Mario Lentini, who is the owner of property at 20337 Leslie Street in Queensville. Get the next slide, please. Thank you. So this property is located immediately north of the old Queensville Public School. It's across from Milne Lane in Queensville, and it is serviced by municipal water and private septic. Next photo, please. The owner had previously completed a rear and second story addition to the existing garage. You can see that where the red arrow is pointing to the addition on the back. He would like to use that new space on the upper story for a rental apartment. Currently, there is a rental apartment already in the front part of the building. There is also, as you mentioned, the single detached house to the north, which you can just see on the left side of this photograph. The photographs on the lower level are both taken at the side of the building. So you can see where the little red tractor is, that's the existing. And then the new white door is the addition. And then he also added some additional space above. And you can see on the lower right is the access to the existing apartment up there. And the new space, he would also like to have another accessory apartment if that's possible. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this property is split zoned. The northern and eastern portions of the property are zoned residential private services, so that's your RPS zone. The southwest corner, where the garage is located, is zoned commercial corridor C1. So the northern portion of the property contains an existing single detached residential dwelling and accessory structures. The south part of the property includes the existing garage, which we were just looking at, as well as one existing rental apartment on the second floor above the garage. So you can see in this air photo where the owner has constructed the new two-story addition at the rear of the garage. That addition was actually built within the RPS zone. He didn't realize that. He thought it was still in the C1 zone. So what we need to do, the town notified the owner that he was in non-compliance with the zoning bylaw because the entire garage is supposed to be in the C1 zone. And because of the addition now, a portion of that garage is now in the RPS zone. So as a result, the owner is seeking to rezone the area to the rear of the garage, so east of the garage, to the C1 zone to correct the issue. In addition, he's seeking to use the new second story space as an additional accessory apartment. And in terms of the zoning, an accessory apartment is a permitted use in the C1 zone. There are some site-specific provisions as well, but those are intended to recognize the existing setback deficiencies at the front of the site. So those are actually considered to be legal non-conforming, but in the interest of keeping things tidy, we're going to include them as special site-specific provisions in the amending zoning bylaw. All other provisions of the bylaw are satisfied. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the property is designated community area and local corridor. It is within the built boundary. The local corridors are intended to permit a wide range of uses, including residential, neighborhood commercial, and institutional uses. So the existing garage, the residential use, as well as the accessory apartments are actually permitted within the local corridor. Next slide, please. So this site plan shows us the rear addition, which is the hatched area, as well as all the existing parking areas on the site, including parking for both the garage and the existing house and accessory apartment. Parking that is currently provided on the site does satisfy the zoning requirements. There is sufficient parking as well to support the proposed additional rental unit on the site. The existing septic system does serve both structures, so both the garage and the single house adjacent. And that septic system is proposed to be replaced with a new system. The next slide, please. So we're currently in the midpoint of our process. The owner is hoping to have a zoning bylaw and site plan agreement in place by early spring to allow spring construction of that new septic system I just spoke about. And I would be pleased to answer any questions that council or members of the public might have. And thank you all very much.
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Alexander. We are now going to have public comments. And so speakers, if you would like to speak to this file, each speaker will have 5 minutes to present. Madam Clerk, have there been any people who have registered to speak this evening?
Through you, Madam Chair, not with respect to this application, we have not had anyone pre-registered to speak.
Okay, that's okay, because people who are here today can feel inspired and come forward. Would anyone like to speak to this application? I'll ask again. Okay. Members of council, do you have any questions for the applicant or for staff? Councillor Johns, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Also being the ward councillor with yourself, I haven't received no comments from any members of the community. So I just wanted to share that and bring that forward, that nobody has reached out to me on this topic. So thank you.
Yes, I think this is strictly a conformity exercise. Okay. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Fastest public meeting ever. Okay. Anyone here? Last chance? Okay, so if no one has anything at this moment, that's okay. If something occurs to you later, you can always email council. You can email Councillor Johns and myself, or you can simply email planning@eastgwillimbury.ca if something occurs to you, or you do a little bit of research or what have you, and you'd like to have your say in this application. This is not your only chance. So I need a mover and a seconder that this be received and that the presentation from the applicant be received and that any comments received be addressed by the Development Services Planning Branch in a comprehensive report to a future council meeting date. Moved by Councillor Johns. Do you want to move that? Moved by Councillor Johns and seconded by Councillor Carruthers. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. So that brings us to the end of our first public meeting. And so we have another one proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw for 19061, 19071, and 19083 Leslie Street. These are official plan amendments, file number 25-05, and zoning bylaw application amendment 25.18. I'm going to ask Ms. Gwillimbury to provide an introduction on this application, please, and thank you.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Leslie Street is a busy street these days, so it's another application on Leslie Street, and it's for an official plan and a zoning bylaw amendment application. The applicant's proposing to construct 2 mixed-use buildings on the land, and the applicant's also looking to acquire town-owned lands further to the east. The application to request the town to sell the lands has also been submitted at this point in time, but has not been considered. On the site is a 6-story mixed-use rental building is proposed, and a 7-story mixed-use building is also proposed, but that's proposed to be a condominium. There is a total of 139 units are currently proposed, and approximately 565 square meters of commercial space is also proposed, which would be on the ground floor. Access would be from Leslie Street. The lands are within the community areas of the official plan, and that supports people to live, shop, learn, work, and worship. The key issue with respect to these sites with the proposal is that right now, the village core provides for up to a maximum 4 stories and a maximum density of 32 units per hectare. And this proposal is proposing heights both in excess and density increased from that. And I do understand that the applicant has a presentation to give, so I will not go into all the details so you don't hear it twice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I believe the applicant's representative is here in the building. Mr. Stone, please
Are we-
proceed with
are we
your
live?
application.
Are we
You
good?
are live.
Good evening, Madam Acting Mayor, and good evening, members of council, public, and staff. My name is Dan Stone. I'm with Thorstone Planning Consulting. We are the project managers and planners for this project. Our client is SV Projects. And we do have a presentation we'd like to take you through, and understanding that this is a statutory public meeting, we're interested in getting comments from the public and from members of council and moving forward with this application. It's been in the works for over 2 years in terms of 2 separate pre-consultation meetings with town staff, and as the general manager has noted, there's an additional aspect to the application in terms of the municipal property to the rear of the lands that have been assembled by my client. With me tonight is my colleague Bonnie Tang. She's a planner with Thorstone, and I'm going to ask Bonnie to take you through the presentation. And again, we're happy to answer any questions, but we're interested in hearing the comments from council and the public here tonight. So I'll ask Bonnie to come up and take the podium. Thank you.
Welcome, Bonnie.
Good evening, council members and the public. As Dan mentioned.
Can we just move you're a little shorter than Mr. Stone. Thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Good evening, council members and members of the public. My name is Bonnie Tang, and I'm a planner at Thorstone Consulting Services. As Dan mentioned, we do have a presentation that we'd like to run through. Thank you. Next slide, please. So this figure is the subject property context. This labeled air photograph provides context of the surrounding area. Vince's Market is to the north of the subject properties, and to the south of the subject property, there are low-density residential dwellings in an established neighborhood.
Ms. Tang, could you just pause for a second? Unfortunately, Mr. Horsley, we need to leave the door open. We can pull it closed a little bit, but the door needs to remain open because this is an open meeting. Sorry. We're having mechanical issues with the door. I'm sorry to have interrupted you, Ms. Tang. Please proceed.
No worries. On the west side of Leslie Street, there is a 7-story retirement home, lands approved for mixed-use residential purposes, as well as the East Gwillimbury Civic Center. Next slide, please. So the proposal consists of 3 separate properties held by the same ownership and also include the municipal parcel to the east. The larger property to the north, 19083, was the former Mr. Wrench Automobile Repair Shop and Residence. The middle property, 19071, is a small residential lot with existing residents on the property. And the south property is 19061, which is a L-shaped residential property, also with an existing residence. In total, there is a lot frontage along Leslie Street of 84 meters, and the total lot area, including the municipal parcel, is 10,360 square meters. Next slide, please. So the subject properties are comprised of 3 separate designations. 2 of the north properties are designated as neighborhood commercial. The south property is designated as village core area. The municipal parcel to the east is designated as low-density residential. Next slide, please. We are requesting to redesignate the subject lands to a site-specific village core area. The site-specific provisions for the official plan amendment include a maximum height of 7 stories and a maximum of 143 units per hectare. It is also important to note that the proposed density conforms to the adopted official plan and that the adopted official plan policies are more flexible as it relates to maximum height. Next slide, please. The subject lands also have a range of zoning comprising of commercial C4 on the north half of the 3 properties, mixed use 1 with a holding provision on the south half, and residential private services on the municipal parcel. Next slide, please. This zoning bylaw amendment application is requested to rezone the properties to a site-specific mixed-use 7 zone. The site-specific zoning would carry forward the holding 4 provision, and the H4 provision is related to the allocation of full municipal services to the development. The site-specific provisions are requested to address some deficiencies and increases to the performance standards of the zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. As Dan mentioned, we have had 2 separate pre-consultation meetings with the town, one in November 2023 and another in March of 2025. Based on the feedback from community and staff, we adjusted our original proposal for townhouses that was presented during the November 2023 pre-consultation. We submitted a formal request to purchase the municipal property in June of 2025 and submitted an official plan amendment as well as a zoning bylaw amendment application concurrently in December of 2025. The redesignation and rezoning would allow for the development of 2 mixed-use buildings on the subject property, including a shared private parking area and parkette to the east. The 6-story mixed-use building to the south is proposed to be a rental building, while the 7-story mixed-use building to the north is proposed to be a condominium. Next slide, please. I won't go through this slide in detail, but we have completed a number of technical reports and studies to support the planning applications. I do want to point out that the transportation impact study did also deal with the minor parking reduction requested as well. Next slide, please. So this figure shows the conceptual site plan of what's being proposed with the development. The building A is the building to the south, and it includes 50 units for rental purposes. And building B is a 7-story condo building with 89 condo units. Both of the buildings will have retail and commercial at grade facing Leslie Street. And the development includes a total of 188 parking spaces, including 19 on the municipal parcel. The development proposal also proposes maintenance of the walkway that currently connecting Sharon Boulevard to Parnham Crescent. Next slide, please. So as mentioned earlier, the land subject to this proposal includes 3 properties that were acquired by the ownership and a portion of the land owned by the town to the rear. We are proposing that the walkway block would be retained by the town, while the north block portion would be developed as a parkette. And in addition, the surplus lands would be incorporated into the development project for parking and landscaping. Next slide, please. This slide shows the conceptual rooftop amenity space for Building B. The outdoor space includes plantings, lounge areas, vegetable gardens, and a barbecue area, while the indoor space includes additional lounge area with a workout room and a media room as well. Next slide, please. Through this process over the last 3 years, our project team is well aware of local concerns as it relates to Leslie Street and the Sharon Village core. The development does propose a full movement access onto Leslie Street, which would be shared among the 2 buildings. In addition, we have proposed lay-by parking along Leslie Street for a dynamic streetscape and for the town's residents to have easy access into the proposed retail and commercial businesses. In addition, our design also addresses the town's urban design guidelines and objectives to create a vibrant walkable core. Next slide, please. These renderings show an idea of how vibrant this development could be, especially with the retail and commercial units at grade with lay-by parking in front of both of the proposed buildings. Although the site is not located within the proposed Sharon Heritage Conservation District, the buildings have been designed with consideration of the historical nature of the Sharon community. Next slide, please. So the subject lands are located in the village of Sharon, which is a settlement area as defined by the provincial planning statement. The PPS permits a mix of land uses and promotes intensification to support complete communities, and the proposed development is consistent with the PPS. We have reviewed the policies of the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan, and both a stormwater management report as well as a headwater feature study was submitted to address the LSPP. The subject lands are designated as community area within the region of York's official plan, and the development is in conformity with those applicable policies. Next slide, please. As mentioned earlier, the lands subject to these applications have a variety of different designations. The official plan amendment application is requested to consolidate the designation of the properties as a site-specific village core area. It is important to note that the current official plan dates back to 2010, and our team has taken a lot of direction from the new official plan, which was adopted by this council in 2022. We do recognize the relevant policies of the adopted official plan, even though it hasn't been formally approved by the province yet. In addition, the amendments are considered consistent with policies in the town's new, The amendments are considered consistent with policies in the town's new adopted official plan in terms of the density and consideration of additional height. The proposed development satisfies the purpose and intent of the existing and adopted official plans in terms of built form, urban design, and mixed-use development. Next slide, please. In terms of proposal highlights, the design and layout of the project has considered appropriate transition to the stable residential area to the east. The project does provide for much-needed rental housing with a range of unit sizes, and the project also provides community benefits such as the delivery of a community parkette at the rear of Vince's Plaza. The development has also been designed to incorporate a number of sustainable features, and we have considered the town Thinking Green design standards. Finally, the proposed development aims to achieve high urban design objectives for the Sharon core by creating vibrant and walkable streetscape. And this concludes my presentation. We look forward to listening to comments from council and the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tang. So we will now wish to hear from those who wish to speak on this file. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to present, and I will give you a quick reminder if you start to nudge closer to the 5-minute mark. Madam Clerk, have we got any presenters or speakers that have registered to speak this evening?
Through you, Madam Chair, we do have 4 individuals that have pre-registered, and I believe you may have access to the list.
Please stand by. All right, thank you. May I please call Todd Telford to the podium, please? Sorry, Councillor Crone, I know you refer to as a lectern.
That's right.
It's the lectern. Welcome, Mr. Telford.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam Acting Mayor and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight at this public planning meeting. I'm an East Gwillimbury resident, a property owner on Parnham Crescent, located directly behind the subject property. I'm the resident who will be impacted with this proposed development. To say that I'm concerned about 200 new neighbors overlooking my backyard, 200 vehicles coming and going daily, parking lot lighting operating every night, increased noise, and the removal of over 60 mature trees that currently provide privacy and act as a buffer zone from Leslie Street traffic would be an understatement. I'd like to out my concerns in 4 different areas, the first one being environmental. The subject land is heavily treed and contained wetlands characteristics including bulrushes and canary grass. Throughout the year, visible surface water flows throughout this area, and I've documented this on video. The high water table appears to be part of the headwater tributary of Sharon Creek, located directly across Leslie Street. A study completed by Corydon Environmental Consulting suggests a permit from the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority may be required for development on the west side of Leslie Street, as that area is regulated. However, the east side, which feeds into that system, contains a culvert under the driveway of 19061 Leslie Street with its tributary flows. If the land across the road is regulated, why is the property not treated the same way on 19061? My next concern is the removal of approximately 60 mature trees, including a 25-plus-year-old black walnut tree on my property, and a 20-year-old plus maple tree located within feet of my property line. Is the town's tree protection bylaw being followed? How can wetlands be filled in and built upon? The town's fill bylaw states that no person shall carry out the site altercations that may adversely affect drainage without written approval. Is the Ministry of the Environment involved, and has Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority been fully informed? Does this signed proposal with their environmental protection policies? The current proposal suggests replacing mature trees with a 1.5 meter high fence and shrubs, which is a very inadequate solution. The shadow study states that December late afternoon shadows may reach the residential properties to the east. Due to the proposed building heights, my property will receive reduced sunlight during the shortest days of the year. Additionally, the proposed development site currently sits approximately 6 feet below the grade of my yard. Will it remain this way, or will the site altercation bylaw be enforced as part of this endowed development? Zoning. The proposed development requires several zoning amendments, a change from MU M4 to high-density MU M7. In my view, this is inappropriate and unacceptable. The Town of East Gwillimbury official plan states that high-density developments should not back onto low-density residential properties. Medium density is defined as 30 to 50 units per hectare, with apartments to a maximum height of 13 meters or 4 stories. The current proposal clearly exceeds this. The request to purchase town-owned land, the property directly behind my yard, and currently a public walkway, should be denied for environmental and community reasons. This land contains mature trees and serves as an important community function. Stripping this land for parking and snow storage would remove the tree canopy and expose adjacent commercial buildings simply to allow for increased density. The daycare located within the Vince's property uses this as an alternative outdoor play space, free from traffic concerns. The well-used pedestrian path from Parnham Crescent to Sherman Boulevard is utilized daily by dog owners and residents accessing the commercial plaza. This is an important part of our neighborhood. Regarding parking requirements, the zoning bylaw requires 198 standing parking spaces plus 8 accessible spaces, according to information provided by town planner Pedri Zanichi. I apologize if I ruined that. Without purchasing the additional town-owned land, the proposed plan shows only 176 spaces, 30 fewer than the required 206. The argument that reduced parking will encourage transit use and assumes adequate transit available. Currently, bus services run every 30 minutes and only connects to the GO station on Davis Drive in Newmarket. There are no bike lanes in Leslie Street to support alternative transportation. Road safety. Traffic along Leslie Street during the morning and evening rush already is a concern. The traffic study completed by NextTrans concludes that future development will operate within acceptable capacity levels. However, York Region has no plans to widen Leslie Street within the next 10-year capital plan. The study also fails to include several key background developments. The planned town park, southwest corner of Jonah Doan Way, directly across the proposed development, which will include an event pavilion, amphitheater, community gardens, outdoor skating area, and playground. A proposed apartment building on the corner of Mount Albert Road and Countryman Road. Both developments will significantly increase traffic along Leslie Street. The study applies to a corridor growth factor of 0% for Leslie Street. I believe this is inaccurate, reflects the actual growth occurring in Sharon. If this is an area that tend to become gathering point for the community, decision makers have an obligation to prioritize public safety. Within a 1-block radius, there'll be 5 access points creating cross-traffic and congestion concerns. The absence of bicycle lanes and safe pedestrian crossings makes it difficult to cross Leslie Street safely.
Mr. Telford?
Yes?
We have exceeded 5 minutes. I'm wondering if you can wrap up?
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Currently, during Civic Center events, vehicles already park on Mount Albert and nearby side streets. I'm not going to touch on the Heritage District, but I'll go to my summary. It's unfortunate.
You know what I can suggest is also, it looks like you've prepared a written statement. I would love it if you could submit that to us so that
Certainly.
it can be included in the file.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Requested actions as a resident. I respectfully request the following. A redesigned site plan with reduced building heights, maximum 4 to 5 stories, and reduced parking footprint. a mature tree preservation plan with increased setbacks and naturalized transition zones. All mature trees along residential property lines should be preserved. The transition area should include increased fence height, additional mature tree planting, and dark sky compliant lighting designed to minimize impact on neighboring homes. A full environmental review addressing water table impacts, fill, wetlands, noise, and light pollution. And also, if it's possible, I'd like to be involved in the direct consultation, as me as a property owner are going to be greatly impacted. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Telford. Our next speaker is Angela Ahrens. Welcome, Ms. Ahrens, and thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for being here today.
Good evening, Council. My name is Angela Ahrens, and I live on Parnham Crescent in Sharon. My home is directly behind the proposed 7-story condo and rental complex. My family moved to Sharon over 20 years ago to get away from the high-density building happening in Newmarket. We intentionally bought a half-acre property because we wanted space, privacy, and the quietness of rural living. We understand Sharon will grow, and we've supported that growth. We've enjoyed the new parks, path, and improvements that expansion has brought. I want to be clear, I'm not here to oppose housing. I'm here to oppose a development that is oversized, under-buffered, and being pushed through in a way that ignores the real impacts on residents. I am hoping that Council will not approve the amendments to increase the numbers of floors and give them the public land that this builder is requesting. Firstly, I strongly oppose the builder's request to take over town-owned parkland and turn it into a parking lot. That parkette is not extra land. It is public green space used by families and children. A developer should not be rewarded for designing a project that doesn't fit their site by being handed parkland to make it work. They have their land, and the town should not be pressured into sacrificing green space for private development. Less floors also means less need for parking. Other requests to buy this property in recent years has been denied. So should this one. I'm also concerned that if the town gives up this parkette, the builder will later request amendments, including a possible additional access off Sharon Boulevard. They have already referenced this in their traffic study. Second, Leslie Street is already congested and becoming unsafe. This amendment increases density from the allowed 32 units per hectare to 143, which will significantly increase traffic, turning movements, deliveries, noise, and safety risks, especially for pedestrians. While the applicant submitted a traffic study, the town should require an independent traffic study before any approvals, and it must include cumulative impacts from other planned developments, including the proposed 13-story building on Mount Albert Side Road. Finally, if road upgrades are required, council must clearly establish who is paying for them. Third, the proposal removes approximately 70 trees, the only meaningful buffer between this development and existing homes. While the builder suggests trees will be replanted, only a 1.5-meter landscape strip is proposed, which is decorative and not a real buffer. Council should deny the full removal of the existing tree buffer and require a significantly wider 3 to 4.5-meter landscape strip with large trees replanted, including minimum 20-foot evergreens to properly protect privacy. The proposed 1.5-meter buffer is inadequate and could also negatively impact healthy trees on adjacent properties. Fourth, the proposal places snow storage directly behind existing homes. That means plows and snow removal trucks operating at our property line. Snow storage should be moved away from the residential boundary and placed closer to the commercial side of the site. Fifth, the proposed 1.5-meter fence along the path is completely inadequate. It provides no privacy, security, or noise protection, and increased path use will directly impact nearby homeowners. We are requesting a 2.5-meter solid sound barrier fence and trees taller than the fence to reduce noise and protect privacy from the building and overlooking balconies. Sixth, I'm concerned about wastewater allocation and infrastructure capacity. How is Sharon supposed to support all of these new developments? Is there not a limit to what can be allocated? Seventh, council must require an independent environmental impact study focused on groundwater. This area already has high water tables and a history of basement flooding. And even the builder's own stormwater report shows water levels as shallow as 1 to 3 meters. Digging and paving for this project could make existing flooding and drainage problems significantly worse, and best effort is not an acceptable standard when residents' homes are at risk. Eighth, the builder's environmental report relies too heavily on best effort language, especially for phosphorus removal, which is not an acceptable standard. Environmental harm can't be undone with fines. Because the site includes a stream that appears to flow toward Lake Simcoe, council should confirm whether the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority has reviewed the impacts. The environmental study should also include the removal of the parquet, which appears to be missing in the original one. Finally, residents have already experienced reduced water pressure from recent development, and adding this many units will likely make it worse. Last, I would also like to request a noise study. Large buildings come with rooftop equipment, HVAC systems, garbage handling, and constant vehicle movement. We are already impacted by noise from nearby commercial activity, and this proposal would double that impact. So to conclude, I'm asking council to take a step back and consider all of our concerns before any approvals are granted, especially keeping the buildings to a maximum of 4 stories to limit the detrimental impact on established homes and reduce the need for excessive parking. People still look at Sharon as a small community, and they want to move here to get away from high-rise buildings and dense development. We absolutely can support more housing, including more affordable housing, without sacrificing the small-town character that makes Sharon special. Please do not allow this proposal in its current form to take away our green space, our privacy, and the community feel that brought so many of us here in the first place. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ahrens. The next speaker on the list is Randy Pope. Welcome, Mr. Pope.
Good evening,
Thank you.
Council. Thank you very much for the opportunity. The 2 previous speakers touched upon a number of points that I had, so they're very eloquent in it. I'll just touch upon a couple of things. One, that the development is the overall fit in the community. The Sharon Heritage Conservation District runs 1.3 kilometers from Colonel Whaling right up to Judah Doan. You're really concerned about the uniqueness of the village, and most of the properties are either 1 or 2 stories, houses, or small business. You do have a couple of churches, and you do have the Sharon Temple. Then, right at the edge of this, you want to put a 6- and 7-story buildings, and regardless of what the planners have said, they do not fit in with the community. In addition, it's also, these buildings are adjacent right to a long-standing, established residential community of single-family homes. Consequently, this does not fit with what is there already. Other people have touched upon things like parking. When you have that many units going in, with the lack of public transit and the fact that most of the people will either have 1 or 2 cars, you also have commercial development in the bottom with trucks coming, customers coming. There won't be enough parking spots, especially in the winter when you've got snow mountains in some of the spaces. There's going to be a lot of congestion. Parking will then overflow into the neighborhood, into the adjacent Vince's area along Leslie Street, maybe even in here. There'll be parking in your back because there won't be enough spaces. Third, the traffic, that all of a sudden you're going from 1 business, I guess, and 2 houses, now to putting in 139 residential complexes, plus you've got commercial development as well. The traffic filing on to Leslie Street, especially in the morning and in the night, it can't really cover it. There's already traffic jams on there. You can't afford to put another traffic light in there, and with single lanes going either way, it is going to be a lot of congestion and more accidents. The final thing, and there was a bit of a comparison between this and Sharon Corners. The difference with Sharon Corners was that you're on a major intersection, and the vast majority of the people in Sharon Corners do not drive and are not traveling every day. This development would have people coming and going at all times of the day. On weekends, they're going to have visitors, et cetera, et cetera. It is going to create a lot more chaos and a lot more congestion than Sharon Corners would ever do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. The next speaker on my list is Mr. Craig Doran. Welcome, Mr. Doran, and thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you very much, sir. Madam Acting Mayor, Council, staff, and the member of the public. Got a full house here today. My name is Craig Dorn, 18860 Leslie Street. Wow, 6 and 7 stories. How do we ever get to that in this town? What happened? What happened that we're in this meeting right now talking about 6 and 7 story buildings in Sharon? I attended Sharon Public School in the 1960s. One of 7 elementary schools, 6 high schools, university and college. So I come back to Sharon, where I've lived in rural areas, big cities, small towns. Well, my wife and I decided, let's find a spot that's rural kind of, maybe a small town, in a nice location for work. Why work? In the last 4 decades, I worked for more than 2,000 companies all over Ontario, including several dozen developers. So I know how all this works. So 4 decades ago, we decided to come here. And actually, I seen somebody walk in here. He's standing at the back. I was standing at the back. His father gave me a gift the first month we moved here. What that gift was a copy of the official plan. The official plan. I know we're going back to the 80s here. Well, I sat down with my wife's actually father, my father-in-law. I said, you know what? We could live here. We got a clean slate, a little tiny village. We know we got Newmarket below you. We know there's going to be Queensville. Well, we have the small hamlet. They even called it a hamlet in 1970s back then. They changed it from the hamlet to the village core. So now we call it the village core. We have a clean slate. Well, what happened? We have an official plan. Other than what Brenner did back in the 80s, okay, and that was talked about with Sherry, talked about it last meeting, and I'd like to take the opportunity right now actually to thank Sherry's parents, Janet, her husband. They did a lot for this community, and they were really active in the Brenner subdivision. Now, I don't necessarily agree with some of the stuff that town let Brenner away with, especially from some engineering stuff, which we won't get into that. But overall, he met the secondary objectives in the plan. Other than that, nothing has been followed in the plans. Now, this isn't the one I got from Dave's father. This is the one, my latest one I got in my office. But nothing on the Brenner subdivision has done since that. We have an official plan. You have zoning bylaws. Then why does council keep changing the plans and keep changing the zoning? Okay? 6 and 7 story building. What's wrong with a 3 and 4 story building in a community like this? 200 more cars going on Leslie Street. Think about where that is. Just go tomorrow and drive out Vince's off Leslie Street and think just south of that, another driveway with 200 more cars coming out of it. I sat in this council a few weeks ago and listened to, well, some neighbors and friends and their frustration. What was their frustration? The frustration is what happened to the village core. It has not gone to plan. Okay? And look at the traffic on Leslie Street. If the town allows it somewhere down the line, and they might not even be able to stop it, if you change Leslie Street to 4 lanes, you've lost your village. It's gone. It's gone. The village is gone. I sat in the meeting last week with the official plan, the presentation. They want hamlets. Well, if you keep putting up 6 and 7 story buildings all along Leslie Street, where's the traffic going to go? What are you going to do other than wanting it to 4 lanes? And there goes our hamlet. Forgot to put on my glasses here. I got some notes. My suggestion more than 25 years ago has not changed for the village core. You put an entrance on the south end. You put an entrance on the north end. You put the services underground. You streetscape it. You put sidewalks both sides, and you have a village. You have a hamlet. And what else that causes? Traffic calming. traffic calming. You'll always have a problem with volume, but with traffic calming.
Mr. Doran?
Yes, I got you here.
Okay, thank you.
Some of the highlights changes, I won't get into much, but we did have a bypass. It was removed. The West Sharon development, before it was done, was supposed to service, Village Core was supposed to service. It was removed. They had the town and developers had the same consultants. I've worked with these developers more than 4 decades. It's changed from the 80s to where we are now. It's not about building communities much anymore. It's how much money we can make on every square foot of property. A developer can make money on a 3- and 4-story building, but they can work a lot more money on a 6- or 7-story building. With respect to Leslie Street, don't let me widen the 4 lanes, but some point of interest on the south and north end, put the services underground, put the sidewalks both sides, that would do the traffic calming. Also, to
Mr.
make
Dorn,
sure.
I've been very generous. We're
All right.
almost at 6 minutes, so I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
That's fine. I'm done.
And suggest, as I did with the others, I want to be fair to everyone who wants to speak tonight.
Yeah, well, I
If you want to
understand I
submit,
was the last speaker, but okay, I'm good.
well, there may be others who wish to speak, but I just would like to ask you if you want to submit your comments in writing as well.
Well, I
that will be added.
didn't reuse my notes, I just stopped top of my head.
Okay, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
being here this evening. So that was the end of our prepared or pre-registered speakers. Now it's an opportunity for those who are here who have heard what was presented and would like to also add their comments. So if you haven't had an opportunity to sign in with the staff member at the back, please do so. But if you want to approach the lectern and just state your name and address, you can sign in afterwards as well. So this is an opportunity for those of you who'd like to speak. Mr. Hobbs, why don't you just come to the lectern and you can sign in afterwards?
Evening.
Thank you and welcome.
Oh, thank you. Members of council, could you please put up, if possible, number 14 in the applications photos or pages,
Madam
slides?
Clerk, can we find slide 14
Yeah,
in the presentation?
yeah,
Is it this one, Mr. Hobbs?
yeah. If you want to keep it up for my full 5 minutes, actually, I don't have anything to say, but I would just like people to look at that. Spend a full 5 minutes, turn and look at your Leslie Street, the Heritage Conservation District, which is just, they've got a tree for it, just down there. And if you can take a look at that, close your eyes and imagine a nice summer day. Actually, if anyone has been in Toronto, south of the 401, if you go to the east side of the Don Valley Parkway on Eglinton, you'll see buildings just like this. They're beautiful. They're just wonderful, and I have no problem with them being on Eglinton. And as has been said before, I'm not sure how well they do in the hamlet of Sharon. And that's, if you could just keep that up and look at it and focus on it and see how the developers view this town, okay? Part of the problem I have is watching York Region prepare us for 4 lanes. And this type of development, which would receive support from the old OMB and anyone else, because we need houses. We need accommodation, affordable housing. No problem with that. Problem is, this, as has been said before, you start putting this in, you're destroying a town. And it's as simple as that. So I'm just going to sit down, but I would like people to look at that for the full 5 minutes because it needs to be considered. You can't just do one in a short application and see that for 20 seconds. You've got to look at it and imagine it on Leslie Street and how that would make you feel, say 15 years from now, when you're no longer councillors and you're driving by and you go, oh, look at that. I'm responsible for putting that in. I've done a really whatever job. So I'm just saying, this is not the type of structure that you should be considering. And if you want to consider a 4-story building, it should be developed with a much different facade. And the facades can be built, it doesn't matter how they built them, but that does not look like an older town that's grown gracefully. It requires 4 lanes. So I'm just saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Hobson. If you could just go to the back and sign in, we'll make sure that you are notified of future reports and meetings.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes, please approach. And if you could just give us your name and
John Lisi, my address is 31.
if you want to just put it,
Oh.
Wait till you get to the,
Yeah.
so that we can hear just
Yeah.
just
My
your
name's
name and address. And then
John Lisi, it's 31 Parnham Crescent, Sharon, Ontario. We're just a few houses down from this,
welcome, Mr. Lisi.
this building. The one question I have is always about affordable housing. It's the topic of throughout Canada. When we purchased in Sharon, which was 23 years ago, we lived in Newmarket, and it was affordable to live in Newmarket. 23, and we lived in Newmarket for 16 years prior to that. I grew up in the King Region, I grew up in Knowlton, in the country, and we chose Sharon because of our family, our children, our sons, and our boys. And it was affordable. And when we purchased in Sharon 3 years ago, it was expensive, but it was reasonably affordable. For families now, it's not affordable. And when you look at a development like this, is this going to be affordable housing? What is the actual cost of one of the units in your condominium? You have a projected cost, so I'm going to ask the developer who's speaking for him, what is the projected cost for one of the units in his housing development? Do you have that information? You don't. So you've got this massive structure, apparently 6 to 7 floors high. They don't project the cost per unit. We need affordable housing. 7 stories is not affordable housing. People want to come to Sharon, to live in Sharon for the community, not for what Sharon actually is. It's a small area that you can raise your family in. These aren't family dwellings. They're not. They can't project, they can't even give us the amount what they're going to cost for they have a projection. They know the millions of dollars they're going to make on this. This is not Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Lisi. If you could just go to the back to the lady in red and sign in. That way we can make sure that your name is on the record. Would anyone else like to come forward? Welcome.
Welcome. I'm Roy de Medeiros. I'm 55 Veronica Crescent in Sharon, Ontario. So I've been here for also about 20 years. So I've got a couple of questions. We moved into this small little town. We have the opportunity to take, actually I've heard some words today, heritage, listening to our constituents, making things better for those that are part of the community. And then what I'm seeing is we're looking at destroying something that we have that is beautiful. We can turn Sharon Village into something unique like Unionville or other places where people can take their children and communities, and we're turning it into something that's not going to be quite nice in the next few years. My question is, why here, why there, when East Gwillimbury has so much land available where you can put it on either Green Lane, Yonge Street, or other places that have 4 lanes? Why specifically in a really small community where people walk their dogs, have children, to do that to what we've enjoyed, we've loved, and we hate to see destroyed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De Medeiros. If you could just, like I said with the others, just pop in with the folks at the back. Anyone else? Please come forward. Yes, when he's finished, you can ask it, yes. Yep, that's okay. If you could just give us your name and your
Dave Blythe,
address.
878 Mount Albert Road. Sorry, I didn't plan on speaking, so I didn't have any notes, but my cousin Craig encouraged me to come up here and say a few words. There's a few things that I find rather ironic. I've been following the town meetings now since September and paying close attention to the developments that have been going on. And one very disturbing common factor that keeps coming up is the first thing these developers say is, we're not going to have enough parking. Why are these even allowed to go forward when they don't even have enough parking to start? That should be go back to the drawing board. Okay, and I own property in Georgina. Tonight there's a meeting going on about affordable housing. They're, I believe it's a townhouse and condominium, $950,000 to start. Is that affordable housing? These people over here know exactly what they're going to put up for sale. I happen to live on a property that is owned by a developer, the one I'm leasing over here, and trust me, when their development comes forward, they already know what those houses are going to be going forward, so they just don't want to tell you that it's going to be well over $1 million per unit. But my biggest concern is the traffic, of course. Everybody's talked about that, but coming down Leslie Street, this cannot exist without a 4-lane road. So what land are you going to expropriate in order to create a 4-lane road? A few weeks ago, I was listening in on the meeting, and the Historical Society was talking about wanting to make Sharon a historical area, quaint. How are we going to maintain that if we turn a 4-lane road and allow developments like this to continue? I guess that's my biggest concern. Everybody else has already brought forward, but I'm kind of getting tired of these developments coming in. Your plan is for 3 to 4 story buildings, and they come in with 7 or 8 story buildings, and they come in, you know, second concession with 1,200 units and nowhere near the amount of parking available. And I want to see this council start to fight back, start to reject these plans, go to the Ontario board and fight for the residents, fight for the town, quit letting these things just go by the wayside. I'm kind of tired of hearing it's out of our hands. It's not out of your hands. It's not out of your hands until the shovel goes in the ground over there. Start fighting for the town, please. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to us. Ms. Ahrens, you said that you had a question. Did you want to just, yeah, please come to the lectern so that everyone can hear you.
Can you just explain to us what the process is now? Like, who makes this final decision? And like, how long does that process take? Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So what I'm going to ask Ms. Vouvakis to speak, but what I will say is, and I usually say this when I do my own little questions, is this is an application, and we have an obligation to process that application. There are no decisions being made. We need to listen to the community and use the questions that are asked and take the feedback and work with the applicant so that they can potentially make changes and make other adjustments. So, Ms. Vouvakis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. As eloquently as the Acting Mayor said, anybody can make an application, and the town cannot refuse it. So that is a starting point. So any one of you in this room tomorrow could make an application to redevelop your property. And whether council likes it or not, whether planning staff likes it or not, we cannot refuse receipt of that application. It's a complete application and you pay your fee. So understand that anyone will make an application, and then we have an obligation to review it. So town staff reviews applications, supporting studies come in, and it's an iterative process where we may have concerns about the studies, we may feel they're incomplete, we need more information, and until we have the information that we're satisfied with, we won't do a report. Following we're satisfied with it, And I'm going to give you a couple of off-ramps on this too. But if we're satisfied, we bring forward a recommendation report to council. And that recommendation report is then adopted. It's changed. Council doesn't have to agree with what staff recommends. They may agree with us in part, they may agree with us in totality, or they may refuse it. Now, the off-ramps are if council supports it and nobody appeals the decision, including the applicant. The applicant has appeal rights. If it doesn't like the decision of council, they also can appeal. And then it goes to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And it's at the Ontario Land Tribunal that a decision is made. Now, when I said there's some off-ramps, when we have an application, which we have before us right now, there was some previous discussions, that doesn't end here. Part of the importance of having meetings such as this is to get the community's input. To the best of my knowledge, the applicant hasn't had this benefit to date. And these meetings are really important because the applicant gets to hear the concerns, staff get to hear the concerns, and then we start to have dialogue that may change the proposal, and the applicant may choose to amend the proposal, reduce heights, reduce density, address some of the issues that were raised here, or the applicant can choose not to. Those are the options, and if the applicant doesn't change things and staff are not satisfied, then we would write a report indicating council what we don't support. However, if we are supportive, we will write that and it'll be clear and transparent what we're reporting on. Now, if it goes, I will say one comment because there was some comments about the official plan. The province changes legislation and municipalities have a responsibility to each of you to make sure our official plans are up to date. So there is a new official plan. Some of the people here tonight did attend some of the open houses. It is our responsibility to make sure, and when I say ours, I'm talking about the municipalities and council, to adopt a new official plan so that when we are dealing with applications, we're dealing with current policy frameworks. Because we're on I'm going to say a lesser sound footing if you have outdated policies that do not reflect current legislation and provincial policies. So I hope that gives a bit of it in a nutshell. I won't go into what happens at the OLT, but I would say you want decision-making, as does the applicant, to happen at this level, not with the OLT, because then it's not in town's hand. The town can refuse something, and then we go fight it.
Even more eloquent than I was. Thank you, Ms. Mouvakis. If you could, and I know there was a couple of comments as well about the municipal land. There has been no decision regarding the municipal land.
That is quite correct, Acting Mayor. We've received an application. It forms part of what the applicant is proposing to make their application work the way they're proposing, but that has not had a decision with respect to it.
Thank you, Ms. Mouvakis. So, yes, come ahead. Thank you, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Madam Acting Mayor and members of council. Natalie Mann, 18885 Leslie Street. I'll come fill out the paper as soon as I'm done. I would just like to ask a question. I'm not sure who may or may not be able to even answer it, but the presenters mentioned that this came across to council November of 2023 and June of 2025. Could anybody explain to me was there a presentation at that point? You've seen this before, or what was occurring on the November 2023 and the June 2025 consultations that you mentioned? Can you answer that?
Perhaps I can answer it. An applicant is required to have pre-consultation with the municipality.
Okay.
And that is, it's not a public process. They come in, we'll talk about what studies are required, what amendments may be required.
Okay.
So that happens. The formal application wasn't made until earlier this year in January.
So those would both be fact-finding?
Yeah, they're fact-finding. Okay. I'm going to call it, it's an opportunity for the applicant to understand how town staff are interpreting their policy documents, what may be required, and I will say usually significant concerns may be raised at that point in time.
Okay. And then if I may just add in conclusion that, of course, everything that was mentioned tonight very eloquently by many others, I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mann. Would anyone else like to speak?
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here.
Dennis Papp, 19041 Leslie Street. I'm basically two doors down from where this is supposed to go. So my concern, even now, before this is even built, is that when my kids try to go to school, and we have school buses coming into that direction already, there are people that are racing through this area because they can't get around to get to Woodbine or any of these other offshooted roads to bypass my area. And they're speeding through and they're already almost hitting my kids. Okay, they're going through the stop signs on the school buses, and every single time that my kids stop to try to get to school, the traffic is already terrible coming down the street. And if anything happens, as well as on Woodbine, where there's the industrial stuff that's being built now, people will try to use this as a bypass to get through town. And if any of these buildings get built with the density that you're talking about, my kids are already at risk as it is. And the disposition of my property is not possible with this being built in this area. Nobody's going to want this land. So for the concern that I have is that there are streams and stuff going through my backyard. We have had environmental remediations of my area, where we have studies of things that are going on in this that haven't necessarily been addressed by the council. And now we're going to have the development that puts the safety at risk of most of the residents here. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Papp. Is there someone else? I thought I saw someone. Yes. Thank you.
I'm Janet, and I live on May Avenue. I fully support what some of the public here have said about concerns about the density. That building does not belong on Leslie Street in downtown Sharon. It belongs somewhere on Woodbine and Mount Albert Road, or somewhere where it's might look a lot better. But the one thing I have is coming out of May Avenue at that Vince's Corner, which that stoplight is just horrendous in the morning, the way it is right now. And coming back in the afternoon from work, going home, same thing. You're starting to go through 3 stoplights because there was no left turn lane coming from Mount Albert going south onto Leslie Street. And they fixed it all up this summer too. They put all new curbing and beautiful stonework in there, but did they not have any foresight that they might have to make some left turn lanes to accommodate the congestion of traffic? Another question I have is, because this developer has this proposal, has that land already been purchased? Does anybody know that? It's been purchased, so it's like, okay, I've got my foot on the ground there, so now I just need to put a plan and hopefully get it approved? Just a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Is there anyone else who would like to provide comments on the application? Please come forward.
Hi, I'm
Welcome.
Sharon, oh, sorry.
Welcome.
Acting Mayor and Council. I'm Sharon Durazio. I just moved here 2 years ago from north of Barrie. And I came here, I looked in Newmarket, I looked in Sharon, I looked in Holland Landing, and I chose Sharon because it was a small community, which I was used to in Springwater. And I live right on Leslie Street. Several times during the day, I can't even back out of my driveway at this time. And I know that there's a lot of commercial. I'm one of the few residents. I'm only 8 houses down from Mount Albert. And I have a lot of concerns. My son and grandchildren live on Parnham. I know from all the concerns, I really appreciate what everyone said today. When they put their pool in, they had a lot of those water issues and had to build a retaining wall in front of where the pool was being put in because of all the water. So that is just proof from 5 years ago how much water is physically under the land. And it was not very deep when they hit the water, and therefore they encountered a lot more expenses to maintain this retaining wall prior to being able to complete it. So those are very valid concerns that the people have indicated today about the water, but I have a concern being a retiree on a very busy street already, not thinking it would ever be as busy as it already is, and it's only going to get much worse with a very high-story building. And I also have concerns for Parnham with them to have a building of that height looking into these beautiful homes' backyards. I think 4 stories would be more than adequate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Razio. If I could just ask you to, yes. Sign at the back. Would anyone else like to speak? So I guess what we'll do at this point now is see if there are any members of council who have questions or would like to provide comments. Councillor Carruthers, please go ahead.
I'll start. I want to thank everyone who took time out of their schedule to come here. I find it upsetting when we get these types of applications that are so far outside of our official plan. Our official plan, we spent a lot of time developing it. It's our vision for the town. And then I see a developer come with something that is 5 times the density and almost double the height. And I see how upset residents are about it. And I hear you saying, why are you doing this? And we're not doing this. So I think that was made clear by our general manager that it is our obligation to receive this, and then we make a decision on it. Someone also commented about, why are you putting it here? So I hope that question was answered as well. We don't decide what goes where. It's the application comes in, developer wants to do X on the property that they own, and we're deciding on that matter. So for me, most of you raised the concerns I already had on this, but for me, it's that it doesn't align with the OP at all. The density, 5 times the density, to me is just a non-starter. I don't mind looking at the OP if there's a change that would be a benefit to the town, and we need to, for instance, the previous statutory public meeting that we had where someone was in non-conformity over an apartment that they were putting on the back of their garage. That's a small potato sort of thing, and I'm happy to relook at our OP on that. But something like this that is very different than the heritage district that it's next to, when I heard that they tried to have a historic look to it, I think we need to be more specific about what era of history. To me, it looked like 1970s, and that's not the heritage time frame I think that we're looking at. So I definitely think that we need to address the density and the height, absolutely for sure, and the facade, the look of it. It does not look historic at all. And I'm just leave my comments at that because all these other comments I think are also important, but to me though, those are the main things. Like, let's start with that and then address some of these other concerns after that. But I cannot foresee this being a good fit for Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Foster, please go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just to add on to Councillor Carruthers' concerns, dealing with these types of changes in the official plan are always difficult, and again, we need to see a benefit of that. I think you've heard a long list of considerations from the public tonight. I don't think I've heard anything here tonight that probably anyone else in this room wouldn't have the same concerns if we lived right there. And again, to kind of go along, you know, I didn't see much that was sympathetic to the Heritage Conservation District there, so I think there's definitely some work to do there, whether this plan gets pushed forward, or whether it's downsized a whole lot, it still needs to have some work there. So I trust that we'll see some changes come back, looking at some of these considerations from tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Crone?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I'd like to also extend my appreciation for everyone coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts. I won't take much more time other than what my colleagues have said, but I would suggest to the applicant, you've heard a lot of good feedback tonight. I saw some of you taking notes fastidiously, and that's good. And I hope you can have a chance to incorporate some of those suggestions. I didn't hear, there wasn't a wholesale rejection of housing, but just they wanted different kinds. And so I think there's some opportunity to try and have some adjustments and look at how you can do things a little bit differently. It's always better if we can work this out ahead of time. I hate going to the Ontario Land Tribunal because it makes lawyers rich, and we don't always get the best outcomes we want. So I just would suggest, please go back to your offices tomorrow and try and incorporate some of those suggestions that were brought here tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Johns, did you wish to speak? Go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm just listening to the comments and from around the dais and from the audience, and I do genuinely believe that it is my job and our jobs to fight on behalf of residents, and primarily it is the quality of life for residents in existing neighborhoods. And I recognize that that things are happening to us, and that is not in our control. A private landowner is taking an application and submitting it, and then we are going through the process. But I believe that it is a requirement for our municipality to demonstrate kind of outside of the box thinking when it comes to leadership on what the future growth of this town is. And I think that if we truly want vibrant village cores, I think that's done in stages. But if you look at what our wastewater allocation is and what we have available and what we have in the future, and if you look at the plans that we currently have, there are currently 5 plans that are approved under the secondary plan along the Green Lane and Yonge Street corridors that are not near any existing neighborhoods that are ready to move forward. And anything that we can do from a municipality's perspective, I believe, to attempt to induce that, to be able to control growth in a proactive and a pragmatic way, is one that is not combative with the residents, one that is not combative with the applicant, because infill development projects will occur. But the thing is that if we as a municipality can prioritize where the development needs to occur and then move forward from there, I believe that that is fighting for the residents and doing the best possible job that we can and raising our hand and taking ownership of the things that we can control sitting here at this table. So the things that we can control sitting at this table for my comments tonight as it relates to the statutory meeting, as it relates to the traffic study, depending on the timing when the traffic study was done, we need to, I believe it should be done again, because I believe based on what the developments that have been proposed since those studies have been done, I believe that it would dramatically change the impact of what this would have, and that needs to be considered. I further think, I guess this goes for all developments, when we see renderings, I think that technology has moved beyond these nice renderings. Like I will state to the applicant, that rendering had a tree in the background that was higher than the building. And so I think what we need to do is that if we are wanting to be genuine with engagement with our residents, I think that the opportunity to be able to have an experiential, like an experience whereby you can, you know, throw the goggles on and walk around what this would look like. I think that the priority needs to be buffering in a realistic way. There was some great comments from the neighbors here about those, so I don't think that I need to do that again. I will, sorry, one last comment. I had a buddy in my early 20s, and he lived in a converted industrial unit in downtown Toronto, and it was converted after the high-rise buildings were already around it, and he had the rooftop terrace there. And it made complete sense to have the rooftop terrace because the amenities within the converted lofts didn't allow for the leisure space within the units. And so he knew that going in, buying that the rooftop units were there and that there was others looking around. So we're barbecuing, having beer, and like early 20s downtown, that was great. But the thing is that when you're talking about planning practices as it relates to buffering onto existing residential that is already there, does that meet the expectation? Because if you're having folks with leisure experiences on rooftops that are that high, it's not having others looking down on them that they knew were there. It is now a new addition to the neighborhood, and they're going to be looking down on these neighbors. And so, you know, obviously height was discussed, but I think that is something that that needs to be considered. Because again, going back to what guides me, if my job is to fight on behalf of the residents, what is the proactive and pragmatic approach to that? And so those are my comments for tonight. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Johns. I was timing you. You were dangerously close to the 5-minute point. Thank you. As far as my own comments are concerned, I'm forever impressed, touched, and appreciative of the time that people take to come to meetings like this, sit in the chambers, listen patiently, engage with this process, and help us shape the way that our community develops or doesn't develop, quite frankly. And I think that the comments tonight have been very fulsome. I'm always mindful of the high water table in Sharon. That, you know, so many people know about that, but a lot of people who are not from here have no idea that there are people with sump pumps that run 24/7. So I think that, you know, we need to be mindful of that. For me, obviously, all of the comments that were raised here this evening were incredibly thoughtful. I would be remiss if I did not point out or ask that the traffic work that's done addresses the fact that the intersection is offset. So there is no, it's not a direct exit onto Leslie. So you have Judah Doan with a full turning radius, and then you don't have a traffic light, and you don't have anything that, so it offsets it. It's not a straight intersection, and that I think creates a great deal of challenges and risk for our residents. The other thing that I will state is simply that obviously height and density are the key issues here. And as I have said before, with an application like this, I need a really good reason to change the official plan and our zoning bylaw. A great deal of work went into those documents, a great deal of consultation, like meetings like this, went into them, and I need a darn good reason to change them. And as Councillor Carruthers said, sometimes there is something that we overlooked, or a new technology or a new housing format that we didn't consider that would make something more housable or more attainable or more affordable or anything like that, or just more appealing. And I just want to echo that that is that has always been my motivation, is what's the reason to change this? Is it a good one? And so I hope that the applicant, I know the applicant is listening, and I hope they will take our comments into consideration. So given that, are there any other comments or questions that anyone would like to raise at this time? I will also, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please come to the lectern. Same rules, name, address, go sign at the back.
Hi, my name's George Farrant, and I'm on Parnham.
Thank you.
I just have a question. You're under no obligation to sell that land to the developer, are you? Like, in other words, if you say, no, we're not selling that municipal land, they can't go through with those plans. Is that not right?
Well, they wouldn't be able to put the 19 parking spots on that land.
So it might change what they want to do.
Thank you for raising that, sir, because one of my comments here was even with that land, they still don't meet the parking requirements.
Yeah, okay, that's the question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, if you are considering selling that land, can I put in an application for it? I'm serious. Can anybody put an application for it? Because it actually is kind of connected to my land, it's connected to Todd's land. Can anybody put in, because that's what it seems like can happen.
I'm going to ask staff if they can walk us through that process, and I believe it's either Ms. Vumvakis or Ms. Ingram.
Okay.
I think there's a process.
Pardon? Yeah, can we buy some other parkland too? Like, how are we selling parkland? I just don't understand that, like why it's even a consideration in a town, like why to give away public land? And if it is, how is it put up for sale? Because I do know some other people who actually who are serious about it, who have asked the town, and have been denied.
My understanding is that that land was originally an unopened road allowance.
Mm-hmm.
That is my understanding. It may not be
But
the
why would it
truth.
be turned down for other people and be allowed for this
That's why I'm
one?
going to
And
ask Ms.
I'd like to
Ingram.
put in my application.
I'm going to ask Ms. Ingram if you can help with this one.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. The process to buy land from the town would start with simply a letter to my attention, to the town solicitor's attention, and then after that, there is a process. We have a bylaw that pertains to selling land if the town wishes to sell it, but understand we don't have an obligation to sell our land. Typically, we'll respond to an offer or an interest. We'll consider it. Council has to approve it if we decide to sell it to you. We have to declare it surplus, and then we have to get fair market value for it. So that's, and there's notice requirements. So, but in this land, I'm not speaking to this land because I don't have direct knowledge about this particular property, but that's the process.
Thank you, Ms. Ingram. Okay. At this point, I think that we're going to bring this public meeting to a conclusion, and I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Johns and by Councillor Foster. The resolution that was prepared is be it resolved that the Development Services Memorandum, I got the right one, dated February 24th, 2026, entitled Proposed Official Plan Amendment and Zoning Bylaw Amendment 19061, 19071, and 19083 Leslie Street Public Meeting, File OPA 2505 and ZBA 25.18 be received, and that the presentation from the applicant be received, and that comments received at this statutory public meeting be addressed by the Development Services Planning Branch in a comprehensive report to a future council meeting date. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. And I will repeat, if anyone has thoughts afterwards, please submit them in writing, and they will go into the file for consideration as well. The next item on our agenda is correspondence for consideration. We'll move through this quickly. So correspondence for consideration. I've got correspondence from J. Persicini dated February 12th regarding the establishment of an East Gwillimbury Walk of Fame for York Region. May I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Crone, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any questions? Councillor Johns, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say I appreciated the fact that a lot of this stuff was started in a council term prior to when I was sitting here. I appreciated the letter to provide the update and the opportunity of what could be had. And I'm fully supportive of what was suggested in the previous term of council's ability that they were looking to move forward with something like this, and I appreciated the correspondence, so I just want to say that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carruthers?
Thank you. I think we need to more than just receive this. I think that we should ask staff to report back, and so we can have something before us to know exactly what the particulars are and move it forward from there. Thank you.
Councillor Foster?
That's exactly where I was going. I'm good with that.
Okay, so we have the mover and seconder. Would you be willing to amend the resolutions to simply that it be received and referred to staff for a report?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm seeing agreement from the mover and seconder. All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is reports, and we have none at this time. L is resolutions. There are none at this time. M is bylaws. We have 3 bylaws on the agenda tonight. One is an assumption for a portion of a subdivision done by Kerbal Group. Another one is an authorization to grant the easement in favor of York Region over on, I believe it's Bales Drive. And the third one is a bylaw regarding our committees and groups. I'd like to do these all 3 if that's okay, unless anyone wants to separate them out.
Do it.
Okay, let's do it. Who would like to move?
Happy to move.
Councillor Crone, Councillor Johns. Any discussion, questions? All in favor? That motion carries. We have no other business at this time. Anyone else would like to raise anything? Seeing none. Next item is our confirming bylaw. May I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Carruthers and Councillor Foster. All those in favor? That motion carries. An adjournment, be it resolved that the meeting of council adjourn at 8:16 p.m. Moved by Councillor Johns and Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much.